Okay, we're going to call to order a special planning commission meeting for the Plan Ascension 2010 Master Plan of April 19th, 2010. I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and we're anxious to hear some comments from you. Mostly what tonight's presentation will be is our consultant presenting it to the Planning Commission. After we met last time, the document has been changed based on some valuable input from everybody, and Mr. Winston will go over that as he makes his presentation. And just please understand that this document is a tool that will be used to develop our parish for the future. It addresses housing, schools, businesses, and infrastructure. It is how we need to address the concerns and not mandate the process. It is a blueprint that should be followed in order to accommodate all affected components, and it can be modified as time goes on. And I think Jeff said it very well when he was doing his presentation for this. The most important thing about this document is how it addresses the first 5 decisions made once it's adopted. So it's just a valuable tool that we need to path this parish forward with. And anxious to hear the presentation. I know I've been involved in all the meetings since we started this process. I think a lot of the audience members have done so also. And at this time I want to turn it over to Ricky Compton, have a few comments, and then he'll introduce Jeff Winston.
Thank you, Alan. I just wanted to once again welcome everybody. There are a lot of familiar faces. I've seen a bunch of you in my office in the last month. I just hope that you recognize that we are revising the plan as we go. We are soliciting the public comment for a reason, because we believe that this plan needs to reflect, once again, the mission, vision, and values of this parish. So hopefully at the end of this presentation tonight and the public comment, we'll have more input to put into the plan and to document so that we can get a master plan to move this parish forward. So thanks for coming.
One thing, we'll go back and just make sure that you do sign a card and give it to Ricky or one of the staff members as soon as you can, and then at the end of the program we'll entertain your comments. This time we'll turn it over to Mr. Winston.
So, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to make a brief overview for the Planning Commission. And then I think our intent is to, with Ricky's help and Brian's help, is to work through with the Planning Commission this document, which is what we call a Cliff Note version of the larger document, and then obviously have time at the end for public comment. So a comprehensive plan establishes a vision. It addresses problems. We're going to talk about some of those problems tonight. It provides general direction. It's a 10,000-foot view of the parish. It's a foundation for other plans and regulations. A comprehensive plan keeps everybody on the same page. It makes assumptions about where the big utilities are going, where the roads are going. It applies primarily to areas of change. It does not affect existing neighborhoods. It does not change existing developments. It really comes into play when somebody is trying to rezone their property. The comprehensive plan in and of itself doesn't change existing zoning. If there's a property zoning on your property, and unless that zoning is changed, that's an entitlement that you have that exists. And the comprehensive plan is a guide for those decisions about how to change other documents. The comprehensive plan is a comprehensive document. One of the things we hope comes across to the Planning Commission tonight is the fact that all of these pieces are interconnected. Everything relates to everything else. And so it's very difficult to pull apart one single item. So transportation is related to where commercial development is related to where employment is related to where housing is related to where schools are, etc. So all of those things are interconnected. And we've spent a lot of time trying to balance and reconcile those. So as we continue to refine evolve the plan here, we have to keep in mind that this is a balancing act, okay, and a lot of pieces to it. It also builds on previous plans. This document is not made out of fresh substance. It builds on what's gone before. For example, here are the current policies in the zoning code, okay? 12 principles that were adopted by the parish council. Okay, number 3 says preserve the rural character of the parish. Number 4 says encourage compact commercial centers. Number 7 says discourage development in the 100-year floodplain. Number 8 says support development where future infrastructure is likely. Number 10 says discourage strip commercial development along rural roads. And number 12 says create high-quality business development. So we've incorporated those ideas as well as many others that have been put forward and exist in other documents. One of the key parts of this plan is an attempt to preserve the crown jewels of the parish. And, Ascension Parish is a pretty special place. You all moved here. Some of you grew up here and stayed, and others of you moved here because of a lot of these features. You have a great school system. It's been a huge magnet. It's one of the reasons the parish is growing. There's a lot of family heritage here. A lot of you are second, third generation. And there's a certain familiarity in the parish. Even though we have 100,000 people, that's an amazing thing to try and promote and encourage. And land use patterns help do that. There's an access to nature. And there is overall a context around the parish of a rural setting that's really important, and that helps distinguish. That's whenever you talk to somebody about Ascension Parish, the whole notion of rural comes out. So that's an important feature, and one that we're working pretty hard to see how to balance and how to preserve. We have a strong industrial base. The industrial base in this parish contributes about half the tax base of the parish, and enables us to fund a lot of the improvements. So we certainly want to preserve that industrial base. And then you have a heritage that's expressed in your historic sites. So those are all important things to help remind people about what's unique and special about the parish. So we have a number of key issues facing the parish. We have growth, okay? We've been evolving for the past 20 years from a rural to a suburban parish, okay? It's been happening and is going to continue to happen. Continued growth is anticipated. Some people say, well, we're not sure if we want that next 100,000 that's been projected. Yeah, maybe you don't want that next 100,000, but unless you do something to preclude it, it's going to come because the current zoning that's there today allows more than 100,000 people to come, okay? Road maintenance and congestion are not keeping up. We're falling behind every year in terms of road maintenance because of our budget capabilities. That's related to all of the other factors that we're going to talk about tonight. School busing is a major expense of the school district. Okay, we have a huge bus system in order to collect kids from a very spread out population. And as we pass bond issues every other year for the cost of schools, you have to think a little bit about the cost of the bus system. We have a lack of housing for workforce and young families, and all of us would like to have children stay in the community or come back to the community. We have people commuting in. We have teachers and firemen and policemen and others commuting into this parish to work because they can't find housing that's suitable and what they'd like to live in. Sewer system is contributing significantly to our environmental issues, water quality issues. The growth history. So we're 100,000 today, roughly. By 2030, a variety of people have estimated 200,000. Okay? It's a guess. It's a projection. But we have gone back just to verify, and we've looked at the existing zoning and said, is that possible? And the answer is yes. We can probably accommodate more than another 100,000 population under the existing zoning. Okay? So it's not like we're creating new zoning to accommodate 100,000 people. We're trying to say that 100,000 is going to come, so how do we massage how we grow so that it can still maintain the characteristics of the parish that we all admire? The existing zoning is here, okay? Pay a particular attention to that light blue area in the middle. That's what's called medium residential. That entire area is 3 units per acre, current zoning, okay? So, and under certain circumstances allows 4 to the acre, 10,000 square foot lots, depending on what kind of road is in front. So, the current zoning is what everybody's entitled to today, and that's what's bringing another 100,000 plus potentially people to the parish. No, I must have to be closer. There we go. So, come on, there we go. Here's how the current zoning, delayed reaction, sorry. Here's how the current zoning breaks out. The biggest area of land, about 43% of the land area of the parish, is in conservation zone. Okay? The next biggest category is that medium intensity, 3 dwelling units per acre. The next category is rural, 2 dwelling units per acre, and that's about 10% of the parish is actually zoned rural. Okay? About over 25% is 3 DUs per acre, and then all of the others are smaller. So here's kind of an interesting comparison. If you look in the upper right, this is the area of the parish and how it breaks down. 71% of the parish is comprised of lots 20 acres and larger. Okay? Almost 3/4 of the parish is comprised of lots 20 acres and larger. That includes all the conservation areas, all the green areas on the outskirts, etc. In the lower left, however, is the number of properties. So those lots over 20 acres that up here comprise 70% of the parish comprise 2% of the population of the parish. Okay? The largest percentage of the population, about 70% when you combine these two, are lots of 1/3 acre to 1 acre and less than 1/3 of an acre. So about 1/3, a little more than 1/3 of the parish is under 1/3 of an acre, and the other equal property is between 1/3 and 1 acre. Okay. So here's how the parish has evolved. Let's take a look at the Prairieville area. Here's I-10, Airline Highway. So we're here in 1989, pre-open, not much development, truly rural. Okay, 10 years later, in 1998, can you all see my obscuring the images here? So 10 years later, you can begin to see subdivisions filling in. 4 years after that, in 2002, you can begin to see subdivisions beginning to fill in here and along Airline Highway. And 2004, more development filling in. Now it begins to happen more quickly. This is just 6 years ago. Okay. And here we are in 2006. Color photography came along this, in the middle of all of this. Here's 2009. Okay, this is last year. So the area has changed in character dramatically. Now you see lots of vacant land still in the area, but you can see how it's filling in all of these areas, and the potential, except where there are wetland areas, and of additional fill. So if we go down in the southeastern portion of the parish, here's an area referred to as Duck Roost, Gold Place Road, and it's So here's 1989. Here's 1998, 10 years later. Begin to see a little bit of development happening. Still pretty rural, still pretty agricultural. Subdivisions beginning to creep in from the outsides and coming into the middle. Here's 2002, 2005, beginning to fill in. 2006, 2007, and 2009. Okay? So the parish has been evolving. Under existing zoning, the parish has been evolving and filling in, and it's filling in a variety of ways. Okay? One of the things I find interesting and fascinating about the parish is that this map, the red represents properties under an acre, the orange is 1 to 5 acres, the various yellows represent 5 to 20, 20 to 40, and over 40 acres, these larger parcels on the outside. But look at the salt and pepper pattern. There isn't a whole neighborhood that's just 5-acre lots. There isn't a whole neighborhood that's just 1-acre lots, and there isn't a whole neighborhood of just 5 to 20-acre lots. It's salt and pepper mix, and that's what makes it feel rural. As you drive around the parish, it is a pocket of this and a pocket of that, and a little bit of this and a little bit of that as you drive down the roads. It's part of the charm. And part of the charm of the parish also is the vacant lots. Part of what makes it feel rural is that no matter where you drive on, there are vacant lots. Okay? That's what makes it feel rural. As you've seen in those other images, this whole area primarily is the area that is very little floodplain influence, and except for the bayous, has little wetland influence. And that's why the development's happening primarily in this area. It's the high ground. And it's a matter of time under current zoning for all those remaining areas to gradually fill in. So the question is, how do you want to see that happen? And does it matter? Here's, for example, here are the half-acre parcels. All the blue areas are outlines of the half-acre parcels in the parish. Here are the 1-acre lots. Okay? Here are the 2-acre parcels. Salt and pepper. Here are the 5-acre parcels, still scattered throughout the central part of the parish. Okay? Part of what makes it rural and interesting is that variety. Now, everybody here is entitled to half-acre lots, 1/3-acre lots in this central area here under current zoning. You saw the zoning map in the beginning. So everything here can go back to that first map. And so here's an example. Here's what half-acre parcels look like. Okay? So keep asking yourself as we go through this process, one of the things you've all told us, we've heard throughout, is let's keep the parish rural. Okay? So what constitutes rural? That's part of the challenge of this process, is what constitutes rural. So here's 1-acre lots. Now, you'll notice the density is actually not a function of the size of the lot. How it feels along the street is a function of the width of the property. So these have the same spacing as the half-acre lots. The distance between the houses is almost the same as the half-acre lots. It's just that they're twice as deep. Okay? So as you drive down the road, you'd be hard-pressed to tell that there's a big difference. So this has a lot of the feel of half-acre lots. Okay? Air photo of the same area. Starting to feel a little more rural. Here's 2-acre parcels. A little bit wider. Not as deep, so they are a little bit wider, and there's a little bit more space between them. And then look right next door. Okay? Right next door, I would guess those are probably 1/4-acre lots. Okay? And then a difference down here, these are probably larger lots. So there's this salt and pepper mixing of neighborhoods that is part of the charm of your parish. Okay. 5-acre parcels. Again, we've zoomed back a little bit, so they're almost the same spacing, and yet we've got more than twice the property area. From the street, they have some of the same characteristics. They're just larger and deeper parcels. Problem number 2, pollution of our waterways. Many of the subdivisions in the parish are served by package treatment plants. It's been estimated that we have about 150 plus package treatment plants in the parish. The rest of the unincorporated part of the parish uses individual septic type treatment systems. There's several types. And they discharge directly into the surface ditches. Our soils do not have typical leach fields, so all of the drainage ditches along the roadways receive the sewer directly from these. After it's settled out, the effluent goes into the surface ditches of the parish. The pollution levels in the canals and bayous significantly exceed state and national standards, even factored in for local conditions. There are 2 kinds, point sources or pipes, and non-point sources or runoff over the land. Department of Environmental Quality is developing new standards. The existing small plants, we're told, will not be able to meet these new standards. The technology is not such that those new plants will be able to meet the requirements for the new standards being developed by DEQ. And DEQ and the Corps of Engineers have developed a regional sewer treatment plan. Okay? So here's the plan area. Consists of 2 components, one down in the industrial south area, Gonzales, Sorrento, one in the Prairieville area. Okay, this is the preliminary plan. The plan can be expanded. The plan's intended to be expanded. There is, inside the plan, there are higher densities possible because of the sewer treatment. Areas outside the plan area, current boundaries, we have to think about what we're going to do there. Are we going to continue to allow these package treatment plants? We certainly can't continue to allow septic systems to proliferate outside. We cannot have discharge into the surface. That's what got us into trouble in the first place. Okay. What we hear from DEQ is that a 2009 court decision said new discharges can't be introduced into impaired water bodies. Impaired, we're 150% over standards. Okay. So when you all say we want clean water and clean air, we're fouling our own nest here. Okay. We have managed to introduce pollutants into the environment ourselves through our ditches and our systems that have compromised our waterways. Doing nothing, according to DEQ, some of you heard Chuck Berger's presentation last time, means increased water pollution, potentially denial of permits as they begin to react to the conditions. There could be lawsuits. Baton Rouge has recently had a lawsuit filed. There can be fines and consent decrees. There are 5 waterways, I believe, in Louisiana under consent decrees. And as somebody I talked with this morning said, who's familiar with the matter, he said, you don't want to be under a consent decree because every decision that you make has to be approved by a judge. You think it's problematic getting a development approval today. Wait till you have to have a judge approve it after it goes through the Planning Commission and the Parish Council. And it's going to be more expensive to fix it later. It's going to be billions of dollars to solve the problem if we don't solve it quicker. There are some positive impacts of a regional plan. Today, we're putting about 1,500 pounds today of various matter into the Bayou Manchac. With a regional plant operating at normal levels, that'll be reduced to 415 pounds a day, okay, into Bayou Manchac. It's a 73% load reduction. It costs about $3 to $4 a gallon to do it in a regional plant. The package treatment plants, as I'm told, it ranges anywhere from $6 to $9 a gallon to treat effluent. So it's more efficient to treat it on a regional basis and more effective to meet these standards. Myth versus truth. The myth is environmental regulations prohibit economic growth. Just the opposite, in fact, is true. Good environmental stewardship is essential for long-term sustained growth. You don't want people not coming here because they're aware that we're polluting the waterways and that all of our bayous are polluted and you can't have physical contact with them. That's not what we want to do in Ascension Parish, I think. That's what I've heard from all of the people that we've heard so far. Another issue is development in the floodplains. We're talking about more. We have floodplain regulations. We're not proposing to change the floodplain regulations. We're just talking about enforcing those regulations we already have. And trying to develop it at a level that is not going to raise the flood levels on adjacent properties. Okay? And even the concept of floodplain banking is allowing certain areas to develop in exchange for flood storage created somewhere else in that same drainage area. Right today, we monitor floodplain development on the basis of larger subdivisions for single individual homes, and for we are pretty lax about doing that, and we have no monitoring of people filling in their properties that are not requiring a building permit. So you can come in well in advance of development, fill in your property without triggering any issues with floodplain, causing the flood levels to raise on everybody else. Then you can come in and apply for a permit and prove that you're outside the floodplain. Now, that's not a common practice, but that's possible. Third one is road maintenance. Our fourth one is of issues facing is road maintenance. This is the long and short of it. We have identified that, and this diagram does not change significantly whether the master plan is approved or not. Okay? This is a relieving congestion on current parish roads based on development. Now, some of it changes because there may be pockets of concentration that mean that there are more people using smaller sections of road, so that may concentrate some of the improvements in areas and relieve the necessity of extending those. But we have some corridors identified that will take pressure off the existing roads. We have all of these sort of brownish colored ones are roads that don't meet current safety standards. All of the roads, most of the parish roads were developed as farm-to-market roads. Okay, they were built when we were a rural parish. We had tractors using them. And so today we have buses, we have delivery trucks, we have 20,000 vehicles a day on some of these roads, and we're putting a different level of use on those roads. Okay. Cost $300,000 a mile over the last 3 years. It's been the average cost per mile to retrofit our existing farm-to-market roads. We got 470 total miles of parish roads, not state roads, just parish roads. So if a road lasts about 12 to 15 years before it needs pretty serious maintenance, not including just a pothole here and there, but resurfacing and all of that. So 35 miles we should be doing every year to keep up if we're going to not fall behind. We're doing 14 miles a year. Okay? That's what our current finances allow. If we wanted to repair, we've done 142 in the last 10 years, 142 miles of major road repair, parish roads in the last 10 years. So that leaves us 327 miles. If we did all of that at $300,000, it's about $98 million. This has nothing to do with the comprehensive plan. This is catch-up. This is not new future growth. This is catch-up. This is what we've not kept up with, okay, as we've evolved from a rural, farm-to-market road system to a suburban setting, okay? We've talked about these and lots of other ideas and issues and concerns throughout this whole process. We've had stakeholder interviews with several hundred people at the very beginning of this process. We've had public meeting number 1, 2, and 3, each in 3 different locations to make it convenient for you all to attend. We have a web page that gets several hundred hits a week. People are checking out the web page. We've had press coverage, thanks to our various media outlets. We've had a community newsletter that's been mailed out. We've met with a number of you who have asked to come in and talk about particular issues and concerns. We have a support committee that's met with us for about 6 months, pretty faithfully. The last one we had a lot of public comment, and we're grateful for that. I mean, there is a wisdom to having this public process because we do learn an awful lot as we go through this and get some different perspectives. But we've had a lot of people participating. We developed 4 alternatives. Those alternatives have different characteristics. We went back at meeting number 2, asked people about those 4 alternatives, compared the various implications, measurements, contrasting, asked people to talk about or tell us to react through keypad polling and various things, which of those alternatives they liked, for which reason, what parts of the alternatives they liked. And out of that we come up with basically 8 key concepts. And that is that we need to grow in a sustainable way. We need to grow in a way where we can keep up with ourselves. We need to be self-sufficient as a parish, not falling behind as we have been for the last 15 years. We need to focus growth in centers so that we can keep some of the land, a lot of the land rural. We want to preserve a rural character. And you saw that, and part of that vitality of the parish is that salt and pepper quality, but all of that vacant land is somebody's land. They own it, and they've got a right, and they've got zoning, okay? So this plan is really not about trying to regulate as much as it's trying to incentivize and show opportunities. And some of that didn't come through as well the last time around, and you pointed that out to us. So we've gone back and modified the language in the document to make that a little clearer, that we're talking about trying to create opportunities here and not trying to be punitive. But at the end of the day, we are also trying to encourage a pattern. And it's up to the Planning Commission ultimately to decide, and then we hope the Parish Council to say, we endorse that pattern and the process by which we got there. We need to balance our economic development. We are dependent on one industry for 50% of our income. We're losing about $100 million a year in leakage, sales going to other parishes. You can all guess which ones. And we're losing the sales tax that goes with it because people are shopping outside the parish. Okay? So we're trying to figure out ways that we can capture more of that sales tax. We have people wanting to spend money that can't find those goods and services here, so they're going outside the parish. And those people are building parks with the money. And they're building roads, and they're building sewer systems. Okay? We need a transportation system that provides alternatives. One of the characteristics of low-density, spread-out growth, and particularly the patterns that we've been developing, is that it forces all of the traffic on a few roadways, and you're all more familiar even than I am with the congestion on the roadways, and you saw what it does in terms of maintenance and the efforts that we're going to have to go to just to get enough road capacity to handle the development that's here today, let alone another 100,000. Okay? Housing for all needs. We have lots of people who thoroughly love where they live, and they love the character of their homes and neighborhoods. And I love that too. And I'm enthralled by some of the marvelous places that I've seen in the parish. But I also have talked to an awful lot of people. School teachers can't find places to live that they can afford and that they want to live and don't want to commute all the way in from the outlying areas. We have fire department tells us that a lot of the fire people can't find homes. We have clerks. If we want to develop a balanced economic system and begin to develop more shopping opportunities here, we have to have clerks to work in the stores. Where are they going to live? How are they going to get here? And how far do they have to drive? And the problem is, if they drive a long ways, they're going to find a job closer to home, and it's going to be more expensive to find clerks for our stores. Okay? We have planning staff who can't find places to live in the parish. So we have all kinds of housing needs. We have retirees. We have not everybody wants to live on a 2-acre lot or a half-acre lot. I'm at the point where I don't want to mow a lawn anymore, and some of you are in the same boat. So we want to provide housing for all the needs, not just one sector of the needs in the community. An opportunity for an active community. You'd be hard-pressed to find many sidewalks in the parish other than in a few subdivisions. There aren't places for people. We have a park system that serves a relatively small percentage of the population of the parish. With 100,000 more people and kids, they're going to start demanding. Okay? It's not a question of what you want, it's what they're going to want. And one of the anomalies about parks is that you need to buy the land long before you really have the money to buy the land. Because when the people are here, the land is much too expensive and it's too scarce. And so we need to be planning ahead. Not that we're going to spend tons of money on parks, but if we set up the regulations correctly, we can have the new developments provide the parks. Right now, we don't require that. We suggest it. We encourage it. But we don't require it. And those very same people are the ones who are going to be coming back and saying, I think we ought to have a tax on the whole population so that we can have a better park system. We're not really respecting our physical setting with dumping pollutants into the waterways, and we really need to be sure we don't squander our historic assets. Homeless House, the cabin, all of those places that you drive around and see, those areas are also zoned for half-acre lots all around them. Now, we need to think about that. We can, if we set it up ahead of time, we can identify those areas as treasures. They're part of the crown jewels. We can identify those areas so that when that development comes in, they can make a modest adjustment in the way that is laid out, and they can still preserve the setting. That doesn't mean we're going to not allow any development to happen next door. It doesn't mean we're going to have to have any kind of punitive or draconian measures. It just means, hey, we want to preserve this a little bit. Do what you can across your property line to help make that just not town versus or little village next to half-acre lots, third-acre lots, quarter-acre lots next to a homeless house, for example. So it's not how much we grow, it's how we grow. That's the message that's come through all of this process, talking to hundreds of people as we've tried to listen. We've asked for concepts and support, those key concepts. We've gotten very strong support. We've asked about priorities. Number one priority so far was encouraging growth in compact farms, and the other one was connecting our roads so that we can begin to address our congestion issues. And the third one was pedestrian-friendly elements. Okay? It's not quite what we heard in the last meeting here. But so out of that has evolved this plan. It's a draft plan. It's a concept plan. It identifies the fact that our highest priority is trying to get growth to occur in and around our existing cities. We'd love to have Sorrento and Gonzales and Donaldsonville be wildly successful in encouraging. We're going to have to. We've done some things in the matter of policy in the parish that make that difficult for them to do. We've established a sales tax that they don't benefit when they annex areas around them. Okay? That sales tax does not accrue to them, and sales tax is one of the major ways they pay for their infrastructure. They have no incentive to do that, so they're happy to stay exactly the way they are and let all that growth happen out here. We would love to have this be our primary effort, would be those existing cities where the infrastructure, they got their own water and sewer system, they got trash collection. Those people who want to live in small lots, let's get them to these places. Okay? We're going to have to work at that. Second order is we do have a significant population up in this area who are all shopping in our neighboring parish. And if we were able to develop closer to home some of the services that people need the ideas that came out of our public workshop suggest that we'll have smaller centers scattered around, small centers, okay? Maybe with a slightly larger one near Airline Highway and where I-10 gets close, but that might be another area that would have some commercial. All of these are mixed uses. They provide some more of those opportunities for teachers and newlyweds and retirees to find housing that they can afford as they migrate into the mainstream. And then we've worked pretty hard at trying to figure out the industrial. How do we protect that other crown jewel, which is industrial? And how do we make sure that we don't have development encroaching too close, that when these guys want to develop and expand, they're going to have issues, not just with people living there, but with the kind of land uses and all of that. So we've worked with industry pretty closely, and particularly in the last 3 or 4 weeks, to go back and refine it based on comments we heard last time, and try and figure out a buffer zone. And we've adjusted that based on the comments that you all gave us last time. We went back to the drawing boards and addressed that. So the ideas are maybe one area that has a town feel to it, a lot of neighborhood centers and some little hamlets and some areas just where people can go and get a quart of milk and rent a video, and a lot of areas that we're hoping can remain rural. These photos were sent in by people who logged into the website, and we asked them to send us pictures of what they thought was essential to preserve about Ascension Parish, and these are some of the pictures they posted for us. So, in response to some of the comments that you all made last time, I'm almost done. There's no change to the policy of family partitions. Somebody said, are you doing away with family partitions? The ability of a family to cut off a piece of land for their children? No, we're not touching that. We understand that's part of what's essential about the history and heritage of this parish. We're not removing cul-de-sacs from anybody's neighborhood. Okay? The connectivity we're talking about applies to major roadways. We are talking about putting some new roads that will take congestion. We got two choices. We can either widen the existing roads out to 4 to 6 lanes, or we can put a few smaller roads in that will make connections and make other ways of getting around the parish, and they can be relatively small, and they can fit into our rural character. So we're opting to do the latter is the proposal that we've heard from the public so far. We are encouraging the continued application of current interconnectivity with regard to new projects, new subdivisions. Okay? Not a new regulation, it's an existing regulation. We just haven't been enforcing it very well. We've been doing it selectively. We're not requiring the installation of sidewalks in existing neighborhoods. Okay, that was brought up. It's not what our intention was. We've had a number of neighborhoods say that they thought it was a good idea. So if somebody wants some help and wants to try and accomplish that, then I think that's an important role for the parish to try and help bring that about. Healthy living, children's exercise, et cetera, et cetera. But we're not requiring that in existing subdivisions. We're not trying to go back and retrofit existing. We're not discouraging mobile homes. We are encouraging people to build and create places with homes that appreciate and value. Mobile homes typically are a manufactured product, and they typically decline in value. So when you're barely scraping by, they are real affordable, but over time they're not a great investment. So we're trying to figure out how we can make that a more workable thing. But we're not discouraged. We realize they play an important role in the parish, and that that's going to continue. And there's a place for them in the parish. We're not proposing large apartment blocks. In fact, we understand, and a lot of experience has shown over the years that large blocks of apartments have, even the best designed ones, over time, create issues. So what we've learned nationwide, actually, in the last 10 or 15 years is that smaller little buildings with 4, 6, 8 apartments in them, mixed in with neighborhoods, in certain areas, particularly where services are there and roads and sidewalks. And you can walk to shopping and services. They tend to work and blend in with neighborhoods and don't create the same issues that many of you react to negatively when you think about large apartment buildings. Somebody mentioned, I think Craig mentioned, that the centers are limited in size. We did not intend to have 1,000-acre centers. We're not talking about brand new towns, and I appreciate him pointing that out, that was what was coming through from the way we're talking about, several acres for some of the smaller hamlets, maybe 10 or 15 acres, maybe for that largest piece, 100, 150 acres kind of thing, but not thousands of acres or even several hundred acres. Sewer service will be paid for only by the users. We've heard a comment from people that, are we going to have the whole parish have to pay for the sewer system and only a certain area, people in those yellow areas get to use it, get to take advantage? No, the policy of the parish, we've confirmed, is that sewer, and it's not our plan, we're trying to reflect it, but it's not our plan, but it will be paid for by the users, so you pay to play. And the sewer district plan is expandable. It's not intended to be, that's the iron curtain around the sewer district, and nobody else gets to be on sewer. Those that want to, we've talked to people in Santa Monica, we've talked about other places that may eventually want to qualify for the sewer, and frankly, we're all about water quality, so the sewer's a good thing. We have refined, based on your comments, the industrial transition. We've reduced the minimum parcel size. We talked about 1 unit per 4 or 5. We talked about 1 unit per 10 acres. We've sort of ratcheted that down to 1 dwelling unit per 2 acres is our current suggestion in that area outside the sewer service boundary. And again, that maybe there's a way that's the family partitions are exempt from that. We understand that you may not want to cut off a 2-acre slice. Maybe you want to cut off a half-acre slice as part of that. But by the same token, I think there's some concern we've heard a lot of people talk about, which is not to let the family partition be a backdoor around creating subdivisions. And so that the family partition process has to be for what it's intended to be, which is for family members, and not to have it suddenly appear on the market as a full-blown subdivision the week after it's approved. So, the do nothing, what happens if we keep going the way we're going, don't do anything? Well, we continue to infill at suburban densities, 1/4 acre, 1/3 acre lots for much of the parish. We have very little rural, because what makes it rural are those vacant lots, and those all have the ability to fill in, and rightfully so. Not taking that away from anybody, not even suggesting that happen over time. But we are trying to create some alternatives that will attract people to live in other kinds of areas. We'll have polluted waterways. We'll drive for everything. We'll have traffic spreading out through the rest of the parish. We're not keeping up today. We'll have housing that's not affordable for workers. Continue to have taxes leaving the parish if we don't beef up our economics. We'll have a negative impact on our crown jewels, sparse recreation, and no protection for our industrial crown jewel. So we've got these topics, planning commissioners. I'm about ready to turn it back to you, and we can go through the document in front of you. We've got those topics we can talk about. There are several other. You can talk about individual topics: agriculture, protection of sensitive environments, recreation, fire services, whatever you want to do in that process. And
all right.
Cheers.
Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate it immensely. And I guess what I'd like to have any commissioner ask Mr. Winston some questions, any clarification that you may want to have him go over and review, and same thing with staff.
I have one question about the DEQ in the sewer deal. Have we heard from DHH? Because they basically are the ones that control our sewer treatment plants and stuff like that. I know that DEQ is also involved. But did we get DHH involved in this?
We understand that there's a kind of an interdepartmental
Turf war.
ships passing in the night problem, and all we can say is we're aware of it, and that we're probably not going to fix it. It's clearly something that needs to be done. It's probably something that needs to be done by staff locally, and if we're really continuing to foster the problem, we ought to, when you're in the hole, you stop digging. That's the first rule of holes, right?
I just didn't want the parish to get caught between the two state
Right.
agencies fighting.
We know that we don't know everything. Okay, we don't know everything about DEQ and exactly where they stand. We don't know how close to the red line we are in terms of federal oversight. We don't know any of those things, and sometimes the bark is a lot worse than the bite, and sometimes the bite sneaks up on you unawares, as it did in Baton Rouge recently. So we're trying, as I said, this is a whole cloth. There are so many different ramifications of this. It seems pretty clear that we need to do something about a central regional sewer system, that doing nothing really in that area is not okay. And so we're trying to weave that in and understand what it means for and what it's going to do for the parish and that area of the parish that would be served initially, and what it might do for the rest of the parish eventually.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, if I could. The subject of sewage and the disposal of the effluent in a manner that does not pollute our environment is a major concern to me. However, having said that, I see that we're in a catch-22 position as a parish. I'm of the opinion, and others will agree, and some perhaps disagree, that your water service normally defrays a good part of your sewer service cost. They go hand in hand. Whereas in Ascension Parish, some years back, a 20-year franchise was given to Baton Rouge Water. So the catch-22 is here, we need the sewer system desperately.
Right.
How are we going to pay for it? Because we don't have the water service. That franchise has been given away for 20 years. How are we going to pay for it? I mean, where's the money going to come from? I know you don't know that, but that's the question I want to bring to the floor.
Well, I've read the business plan, and the business plan says that there will be user fees and tap fees and federal grants, and that together that will amount to it. And and we're not the only parish that has a water company provides the water. So other parishes have dealt with the same issues. And at the end of the day, we're going to have to acknowledge the fact that this is important enough that we need to pay for it. And we'll have lots of help doing that. There's some fairly significant grants that are being offered to fund it, and so we're not paying the full load to do it anyway. But over time, those that take advantage of it will be the ones paying for it. So there is a business plan. There will be a monthly charge to users. There will be tap fees. All of those kinds of things that actually exist in lots of other parishes. We just haven't dealt with them here in the past, and it's part of what's made the parish attractive, because it's less expensive to develop here.
Truly, it is less expensive because the developers don't pay for any of the infrastructure.
Right.
Thank you.
Question that I've got pertains not only to sewer but to other services. I was looking at some of the statements pertaining to law enforcement, to schools, and so forth. My question is, like with law enforcement, well, the sheriff is the person to go to for unincorporated areas of the parish. Has the sheriff seen the statement? Has the sheriff seen this part of the master plan? Have the firemen seen the statement pertaining to their fire protection in the master plan? If they have, I'd like to have seen some kind of comments from them. I mean, are they in agreement with this? Is this something that each of these areas, these entities can agree with? Or are we just going ahead and saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, and welcome aboard, that's it?
I would not. I wouldn't be that bold. We've met with them. We've had these ideas came out of those conversations with them. They represent a number of the suggestions. I can't tell you whether we've seen the draft document and reacted to that. Ricky, do you?
I can't either. The fire districts have been a part of our technical review committee since we first started this process. They've had full input into the entire process. We haven't seen representation from the sheriff's office. We've invited them. So it hasn't been for want of trying. They just haven't participated.
And my concern is I just don't. We go ahead and we get to the 11th hour in this, and somebody says, well, I wasn't included. I didn't know about this. Especially with the in the areas of public service, we do need to make sure that.
Good suggestion. We'll follow up on that. But because we have a technical review committee that we've met monthly with, and they've been all of those meetings for the last 7 months, and we've talked them through all of these concepts and principles, and they've all nodded and said yes, we're in agreement. So, but have they seen the actual worded the verbiage and the specific policies? No, we'll correct that.
Any other questions, comments on any of the
I've got one
key?
question. You mentioned, I don't believe I can quote you, but you mentioned something about the floodplain banking, like that was not a good idea. Can you elaborate on that, or do you remember what you said?
Sure. No, I didn't. It didn't mean to imply it's not a good idea. There is a concept in the Wetlands Clean Water Act. It says you can do wetland banking. So that means that either a government agency or a entrepreneurial person can go out and create wetlands where they do not exist. And then if I'm required to, if I want to develop in a wetland, I can go buy credits. If I can pay the cost, if I need 10 acres of wetlands, because I'm going to fill 5 acres of wetlands, I can go buy 10 acres of wetlands from this enterprise. So the same concept has been suggested, and we think it's probably a good idea for the parish. It might be done by an individual, it might be done by the parish, it might be done by a consortium of interests. It particularly benefits Gonzales, for example. It's particularly beneficial where there's already services and a lot of small lots that would be difficult to assemble and create a sufficient storage area. And it has to be done in an area that isn't already flooded. So we've just decided that we originally had identified an area we thought was a terrific candidate, and then people have pointed out that there are other areas as well, and by identifying one, it sounded like that was the only one, and we decided just to talk about the concept and not try and point out a specific area.
Okay.
Got one more, if I can throw it out there.
Absolutely.
I was looking at the transportation improvements map, and I see some improvements as far as widening and so forth, but I also see potential connectivity. And when I first looked at it, some of the little purple dots I saw,
Yeah.
I got the feeling that in some respects we're trying to encourage the same type of development in these areas that's already in the Galvez Prairieville area. I'm not saying that's what was intended. That's just the feeling that I got.
Right.
And in some of these areas, I know a few people that live in there that some of these little dots may cross their property. And I don't know that they would be willing to sell their property. And the issue of eminent domain has come up, I know, several times.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand this is just a proposed. This is not carved in stone. It is not going to happen necessarily, but I also know that I've heard that before, and it
Sure. Old Indian trick.
yeah. So
Right.
We have individuals that don't want to sell their property to the parish.
No kidding.
So if they, so like I said, I heard the issue of eminent domain come up several times in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I'd kind of just like to know is the parish going to push imminent? And I know you can't necessarily answer that, but
Yeah.
it's something that
Well, let me tell you
is
what.
going to have to be answered.
Let me tell you
at
what
some
we've
point.
interpreted and what we think we've said. We got several choices here. We can either widen the major roads by another 2 or 3 lanes, and which is going to require acquiring private property, because in most of those cases we've got some cases 24-foot right-of-ways, in other cases we may have 38s, and in some cases we have 11s, and so we're probably going to have to buy right-of-way there. And some people may not be willing to sell it, or may think that it's worth a whole lot more than it is. So at the end of the day, what we're suggesting is that when it really provides a public benefit, it's significant public benefit, not a private benefit, a public benefit, such as roadway systems, you have to find a way to do it. Now, the parish has, in the past, not availed themselves of eminent domain, and we encourage that and think that's a great stance to take. The challenge is that it increases the cost of our roadway system. The negotiation for those right-of-way properties and takes 2 and 3 years. So that increases the cost to the public of putting in the roadway system. So the state has a process of what they call the quick take, which says, let's go negotiate, but we have the ability to take possession of that property while we negotiate. We don't have to wait 3 years and then move forward, and we'll go through the regular appraisals and pay full market value and all of that. So that's an attempt to try and respond to this very real problem, which is if we don't have the ability to put roads through, we don't have the ability to solve these problems, and we're going to be congested and have bottlenecks throughout the parish. And that's a decision that you can make as a parish, whether you want to do that or not. It affects everybody in the parish.
My major concern is the lack of infrastructure in this entire parish. How are we going to accomplish that? Water, sewerage, traffic, fire, etc.
Well, we are a parish, okay? We're not a city. So as most parishes are, those services are provided by special districts. Ascension Water provides the water. As Howard pointed out, we have a 20-year agreement with them, and they're out there putting in water lines, and they have a schedule to meet, and they have a certain number of fire hydrants to provide, and we have a contract, and they have to meet the conditions of the contract. We've met with Ascension Water, and as near as we can tell with our expert our expert sources that have worked with them, that they appear to have plenty of water, they have plenty of capacity, and they have, they tell us, adequate pressure to accomplish the objectives of the comprehensive plan. Sewer is through this regional plant district, paid for by the users, implemented in phases. I think there are 9 phases, and expandable certainly beyond that. The parish does provide roads, so we have 470 miles of roads currently to maintain, and we need to create a few more connecting links, missing links here and there, so we can relieve some congestion spots, or we need to widen the major roads more. Many of those major roads are state highways. They're not under our jurisdiction, and we don't fund them. So, and the state's strapped. So that's going to be an interesting challenge, and figuring out how our system and their system can coexist. Nobody's willing to admit they can't do it, but those are certainly challenges. We do provide police protection in the forms of the sheriff, and as we have evolved from a rural to a more suburban parish, those needs have changed. The staffing levels change. The number of officers per 1,000 population changed, and but the sheriff's office is doing a pretty good job of keeping up with that and reacting. School district provides schools, And so we've engaged the school district in this process, and we've talked a lot about the fact that in many ways the school district dictates or certainly stimulates growth patterns by where they choose to build a school. And part of our challenge here is as the parish moves forward in working with individual neighborhoods would be to try and identify school sites and figure out how to reserve them so the school district isn't leapfrogging out into the hinterlands to put in schools when they can do things more efficiently and closer to where the population is that needs to be served, and people can walk. Some people can walk to the schools. Then there is trash collection, and that's done by private other services. And so there's a whole basket of various services that in an urban jurisdiction, a city, would be provided with a lot closer coordination. The real value of having a comprehensive plan is to coordinate everybody. If we can agree on a plan at the end of this process, then all of these other entities can all be looking at the same document and saying, oh, I see, this is what you want to have happen over here. We'll start gearing up. It's going to take us, years to get our services ready and think about that. And so if everybody does that, that's the purpose of the plan.
When I read the principles and key concepts, a lot of questions came from that document to me. But then in my packet last month, I received this comprehensive plan. When you read through this, there's a lot of questions answered. It makes all the ideas in the other document make sense. So if anybody out there has not read this, it's long, but there's good information in it, and it makes it make sense.
And it's online, and we've gotten a number of comments, and we're not continuing to upgrade because we don't want people sort of confused as to which version they're reading. So we're kind of collecting all the comments and then going to make another round of modifications. But that document is online. Anybody can download all or portions of it.
Okay. Any other comments, any questions? Now we can have a recess before we have a public comment, or whatever you all.
We've got an hour left, so we got plenty of time. I wouldn't mind going through topic by topic just to make sure that you've got we've covered here and that you're comfortable with the key ideas.
Yeah, if you don't mind, we go.
You want to take a brief recess before we do that?
Yeah, and then we'll do that, and
Okay.
see if anybody in the audience.
Okay. I know
I'm sure
you've all
nobody
read
has
it and
questions,
memorized
but
it.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go ahead and reconvene for public comment. And I believe when you come up, what we'd like to do, I know a lot of people have just said they want to comment on all of them, which is fine. But if you have a specific one that you want to direct a specific question, please do so. And then Mr. Winston or Ricky or myself or one of the other commissioners will try and get to that specific item. Unless you agree with everything, and that's also good. All right, let's get started. Roy Russa.
Your arms aren't long enough.
Looks like R-O-U-S-A.
How do you spell Rouillet?
R-O.
And say your name when you get up here, just so we make sure we got it all right.
State my name.
Yeah.
You said state my name.
Please.
Roy Rouillet from Santamon. I'll tell you just about everything I came here about was a family petition, because I got kids and stuff, grandkids and great-grandkids. And I own quite a bit of land in the Santamon area. And what my deal is that I want to be able to keep a road, private road on it. And my kids, grandkids, can live on it by giving them each an acre of land, as the time comes. And that's what I would like to see, to keep everything right there. They want to live on the place. I got daughters all living over on it now. But I got grandkids coming up. I got a granddaughter that's fixing to start a house on it. But I want to, just one of the things that I want to see today, to let it stay like that, in our area, So would that be, I mean, that's basically what he was saying, that it was going to still stay like that. But the thing that I was wondering about was that could we do it just giving them each an acre of land? You know, and if they want to keep their land, and whenever they own it, and if they have kids, their kids want to. I still got more land for my great grandkids to stay on. You know, is that the way that's going to work still?
Yes, sir. The family partitions are not being impacted by the master plan.
So you can still have it on
Yes,
a
sir.
private road, you do your own road, you know,
Yes, sir.
and all that's going to stay the same. We're going to still have the same setup with the sewage that we have now, or how that's going to affect us on that deal.
At this point in time, the master plan is not contemplating any changes to family partitions or the rules regarding family partitions.
Okay. All right. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you for coming. Just by word of information, you have 3 minutes to speak when you get up here. Just want to point that out. Christy Oakwan.
Okay. I actually was trying to get my things all prepared. However, I was not planning on speaking tonight, but after I've heard some of the comments and some certain phrases that Mr. Winston used, that I felt like I needed to. First of all, I live in Prairieville, and I am extremely opposed to the small town centers. There's 15 units per acre that you're proposing. The villages and medium densities are 10 per acre, and I just am opposed to that, probably with many others. However, the building centers, I feel like the building of the centers is just an excuse, really. I mean, you're saying that where are the workers, the retail workers, going to go? They need to be close. Many of those people that work in retail, they drive from here to Baton Rouge already. I don't really see the benefit of that. When I was reading the document, the 138-page document, when I was briefly going through it, there was something in there regarding you had written in there about lofts over some of the stores or shops, and I just feel like that is ridiculous. I mean, who wants to live in a loft? I mean, I think there's very few people, and I just don't see the benefit of that. Mr. Winston, you've commented quite a bit on mobile homes. You say that you do not discourage mobile homes, that you just encourage homes that appreciate and value. But yet you sat here, and this was your exact quote, and you stated that mobile homes are good when you're barely scraping by. They are affordable. That is extremely offensive. You say that you don't discourage the mobile homes, that you do encourage them for appreciating and values, but yet there is, I'm not prepared, but I've got to find it. In section 17-2042, you talk about phasing out substandard homes. What exactly is a substandard home? You say that you're not opposed to. I mean, what is your definition of that? You do not discourage mobile homes. I mean, obviously you do. You're just trying to politely say that you want them removed from this parish, but yet you say that you want to have affordable housing. And I would rather live in a mobile home with an acre of land than an apartment or a condo any day. And I believe there are several people who would, because that's why we don't live in Baton Rouge or some of the other busy cities. Let's see. You're saying that you keep talking about encouraging to provide dispersed variety of housing types. I mean, could you define what that is and what a dispersed type? Why mobile homes would not fall into that? Another thing y'all were talking about is you had made a comment about, we're kind of not at the point where many people don't want to live on 2-acre lots. At the last meeting I attended, it was 5 acres, and this gentleman had stated that, we just threw that in to get y'all's attention, which I do not believe. I think that if that would be something everyone would be pulling more for, then you would probably push that. However, what about people who can't afford 2 acres? What about those you want to provide a variety you're saying give them affordable living. What about a couple who doesn't want to live in an apartment or who doesn't want to live in a subdivision, no matter if they're half-acre lots, three-quarter lots, or one-acre lots in a subdivision? What if they just want to live on 1 acre of property or buy 3/4 of an acre because that's all they can afford? Why does it have to be restricted to a minimum of 2 acres? That's, again, making it unaffordable, and I believe it's just taking away a person's rights. I just don't understand that.
Okay, that's time.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
And there'll be other times. This is not the last. Thank you. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to address them now or you want to just do it at the end. Okay. Councilman Chris Lohr.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Councilman Chris Lohr. I represent an area of Prairieville. And tonight, I've been thinking a lot about the master plan and obviously doing my research and everything. And reflecting on it, I'm reminded of the debate that the parish had when we enacted zoning laws in the late 90s, not too long ago. And as often is the case with government, we're constantly facing a decision of what's in the best interest of the individual and individual rights versus what's in the common good. And like then, I understand that this is a sensitive issue we're talking about here because we're talking about what people can and can't do with their property. But I think, again, in looking at history, I think the core and the key question you need to ask yourself when you're looking at the master plan is, are you satisfied with the way Ascension Parish has developed over the last decade? Now, I'm not anti-developer by any means. In fact, I think they're an important part of this process and developing a community. But Mr. Dalton, I think, had it right. The truth is, developers have had a bit of a free hand over the last decade, and we are all suffering, especially in the northern area that have experienced a lot of that growth. We're suffering the effects of that. We have one-street subdivisions that are not connected. We have no green space, no sidewalks, and oftentimes we're emptying out onto an overcrowded state highway. And I'm one of those that sit on 42 every morning and lament the fact that we have not planned as a parish well enough over the last decade. So do we think this kind of development that's happened is the way we want to continue as a parish? Or do we think residents want these sidewalks and want these higher standards for development? That's part of what the master plan attempts to address. It also attempts to address traffic and connectivity. Understand that that's a sensitive issue as well, but I unfortunately have to work in Baton Rouge myself. If you think about Seguin Lane, it was 2 lanes, now it's 6, and it hasn't gotten any better. I mean, it is about solving traffic is about interconnectivity and distributing the load on a network. So let me also address real quick those that are anti-growth, because there's been a lot of comments from people who just say, well, why can't we just stop people from coming here? First of all, I think that's naive. I don't think you can. Secondly, I don't think you want to. I think growth is a good thing for Ascension Parish. I'm part of that new growth. I kind of bristle at that suggestion that maybe I shouldn't, and others shouldn't come here. It's not about limiting the growth. It's about directing how you want to grow and where you want to grow. So time and again, we hear the main issue in Ascension Parish is about infrastructure. These are projects costing and needs costing hundreds of millions of dollars. I challenge anyone who looks at this master plan to come up with a better solution, because how can you address these major infrastructure projects without first having a strategy and first having a master plan that you can go by? So it may not be perfect. I think no plan can be, but there's been a lot of input. It's been a collaborative process, in my opinion. There's been some changes that I think needed to be made regards to rural, the definition of rural, and the family partition clarification. But without a doubt, I do think that the direction that this is heading is a positive one. And as the saying goes, those who don't learn from the lessons of the past are doomed to repeat them. And so I'd ask that we continue down this process. I want to thank the Master Plan Committee and the Planning Department and everyone else for the work so far, and I'm looking forward to supporting this when it comes to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Tanya Veazey. Hopefully I'm saying these names right.
I'm Tanya Veazey, and I actually don't have anything to say at this time, but I would like to relinquish my time to someone maybe who didn't have an opportunity.
Well, no, we can't bank the time, so We appreciate you coming. Dwayne Oakwan. Somebody did. No. Okay. Sherry Spinzo. Sorry, Sherry.
I'm Sherry Despino, and I would like to pretty much echo Councilman Lohr's comments. First, I want to thank Mr. Winston and his staff for everything that he's done in the Planning Commission. I've sit in on just about every meeting since this process has begun. I think the master plan is a good thing. I think we need to move forward. I also understand that there are a lot of things that probably still need to be tweaked, but I think that we're moving in the right direction. As far as industry, that's one of the main areas that I've sit in on, and everyone has been more than, they've looked at all the issues, and I think that's very, very important. And again, I'm in support of the master plan. I'd like to see it move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Teresa Robert.
Glad we have several more times to comment. I read this 136-page thing, and it is overwhelming. I'd like to preface this in saying that, yes, there are a lot of good things in this plan. And, yes, we can move forward with it, and we've got to look to the future. But there's also some real questionable things in this plan, and I think that we need to tread carefully and make sure that we don't affect people's property rights and the way of life, the quality of life that we have here. I pulled out just a couple of little statements out of the plan. The comprehensive plan primarily affects changes in land use. Existing zoning is not changed by the comprehensive plan. We keep hearing that. That was under 17208C. 17208E, to make a decision about a proposed project, the comprehensive plan is used with other documents, such as the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations. It's going to be up there all the time as we're considering it. 17208F, the future of the parish and the communities within it can be better shaped to meet desired goals and objectives as the comprehensive plan becomes a constant part of every land use decision for Ascension Parish. Although at face value this may sound good, but it's got a lot of power in it. When it comes down and it affects people's personal rights and it affects development, etc., it can really negatively affect someone and what they want to do with their property. It's been said since day one, y'all continue, Mr. Winston Day, residents strongly support preserving the rural character of the parish. That is very important, and I think that as I go on, and I've participated in all these hearings, I don't think we all understand the rural character of the parish. I think Mr. Day and them have a little bit a different definition of just having some vacant land in there and just having a green space, and there's some things that, we'll talk to them and make comments when maybe go back. I went and visited with Ricky Compton and them week before last, and we have other things to say. But I think I guess the whole gist of all of this is we're proposing a lot of growth and a lot of questionable growth with the small town centers and the villages and the hamlets. And I mean, some of these things are 12 units per acre, 8 to 10 units per acre, 4 to 8 dwelling units per acre. And then we have the other end of the spectrum, 20 acres to have a home in agriculture. We're really affecting people's lives here, and I still hope that y'all will fine-tune this and give people more of an opportunity to look at that. And then we're looking at other designations, medium industry and natural, and we're changing the names of things. So these things are just sort of all becoming intertwined, and I really believe we don't have the infrastructure. They speak of infrastructure with the biking paths and with the sidewalks. That's not infrastructure. Infrastructure is our main roads that all these people have to travel on every day. Our fire departments, can we take care of these homes if there are fires? They're all volunteer fire departments. That's the problems that we're having is we're not. The sewage plants, we're doing a huge amount. My district is the Dara, Burnside area out there, and it's got thousands of acres of property, and we come in here and we saturate it with these densities, and we don't have the infrastructure there. So I'm just going to close it with that. One last thing is we're talking about interconnectivity, et cetera, and that it's not going to affect only the new subdivisions, but yet it says here, network connectivity shall be required of all new land development and redevelopment. They keep telling us it's not going to affect our zoning, but if we bring in our property and we want to make one little change, it affects it. It throws us into a whole new ballgame, and that's what the ordinary citizen needs to know, is it does affect the zoning, and people better wake up and help y'all make sure we have a great plan.
Thank you, Teresa. Lou Goppelt. Help me with that pronunciation, please.
That's Lou Guppelt. Mr. Winston, I appreciate you taking the time to explain things and makes us feel better. And my last comment is, though, that on the family partition, it needs to be in writing, spelled out, what it's going to happen. Okay, if somebody makes a change, are we thrown into a whole new ballgame and it's got to be one house or dwelling per acre, or no? Sorry, one house per 20 acres. That scares us spitless. I know Ricky addressed it, but unless we see it in writing and say, okay, here's the future rules, none of us are going to feel comfortable. I realize that it's been said, and I guess maybe I should be addressing this to planning and zoning, whoever said, okay, here's the new rules. Okay, it's going to be if you have a family partition, you can do it this way, this way, this way for 15 years in the future. But if the old zoning goes away and you make a little change, now you're thrown into one dwelling per 20 acres or one dwelling per 10 acres. Now we're in trouble. I also have a concern as far as the logistics, the way that we're trying to make this master plan. It appears to be an urbanizing plan. Here's why I say this. The new conservation or the new rural is now one house per 20 acres. Well, that is prohibitively sparse. Yet it preserves some rural character, I grant you, but it's prohibitively sparse. How many people are going to go buy 20 acres just to have some rural land in Ascension Parish? Okay. On the other side, the urban centers are prohibitively dense. Okay. In fact, the only way you can read it is, okay, we're trying to finance HUD housing. That's the only way you can read it. Because it says in the plan that we're going to get government funding for federally approved housing, approved by the Housing and Urban Development. Well, that also scares us too. So it appears that the way we're doing this is making it prohibitively sparse to preserve the rural character and prohibitively dense to preserve these, to absorb the 100,000 people that we say maybe come. So those are my two concerns.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Edward Gotro. Edward Gotro. Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Edward Gotro. I live in Santa Monica, and I'm here. One of the big things I got is with the family petition. Last meeting, it come up. They was asked about the family petition, and they said it wasn't. Nobody was going to mess with the family petition. Well, somewhere in the paper this week, I read that they are messing with the family petition. Something about they're going to cut the people down to 5 people. Now, if you got a family and you got over 5 people, the thing about it, I was born and raised in Ascension Parish. My parents was born and raised in Ascension Parish. My grandparents was born and raised in Ascension Parish. And they all owned the land, and they all gave that land to their kids. The thing about it is now I own land. My kids was born in Baton Rouge at the hospital, but they was raised in Ascension Parish in Santa Monica on the same land I got right now. And what y'all trying to tell me, I got 2 kids and 4 grandkids that one of them could be left out. No, that's the thing. And I agree. They got people that's abusing the family petition, but they're the people that you need to stop. They got a guy built 24 homes with a family petition, and the parish built him a road after he built it. No, he didn't have 24 kids. He didn't have 24 grandkids. But this is what you got to stop. Not the people that's born and raised in Ascension Parish and live here. I mean, this is my parish. This is my family parish. My kids are still here, and we still want to live there. But, you know, the thing bad about it is the last meeting somebody asked about the family petition, and y'all said, no, it ain't going to be changed. And it was in the paper this week. Ain't that right? Okay, you're changing it.
Well, just for the record, the subdivision ordinance has been in a state of evolution for the past 8 months. It has nothing to do with the master plan. The master plan specifically says the tradition of family partitions is not affected by Plan Ascension. However, it is a policy of the parish that family partitions are not intended to be used as a backdoor. It gets into everything that we've been talking about. The revisions that we're making to the subdivision ordinance are to clean up a lot of misconceptions that have been in play for a very long time. We've met with Mr. Quintmont, with Mr. Earls, we've met with all the local surveyors and engineers about these revisions, and they wholeheartedly agree we are making it better. There are still workarounds for legitimate family partitions in this parish, and I can assure you, if you come sit down with me in my office, I'll explain it to you. We are revising them, but it's not part of this process. We are simplifying the process.
Well, I don't know. In that audience, she said if it's over 5 people, that it's going to have to get a subdivision permit on it. Ain't that what it said?
Yes, sir, but you come to my office and I'll explain it to you.
That's not really what this meeting's about.
Okay, I got another issue. I live in Santa Monica. I live in that 5-acre lot places. Okay. So what y'all trying to tell me now, if I divide my lots up, which I don't believe I could divide it up into, I got a little over 20 acres there, so I'd have to divide it up into 4 lots, and they'd be 100 foot and 2,000 foot long, huh? I mean, they say they're going to keep the lots the same width, and they got lots of 100. So, and I understand what y'all trying to do, but it's I put it this way: 25 years too late. And,
okay, Mr. Gotrup, I think if Ricky will be happy to meet with you and go over that.
Okay,
that's kind of off the subject of what we're here, but thank you so much.
I will go check with you.
Quintmont.
That's my buddy.
He knows. Good evening. And I just want to first point out there has been some great things come out of the planning department. It is not all bad. You are doing a good job, Ricky. Fortunately, this is not one of them. They have got devastating impacts on this parish in this document. You need to read it real carefully and look at the actual impacts in dollar and in property rights that are involved here. I only have time to touch on just a couple. Let's talk about the density requirement of the 2 acres in rural parts of the parish. What you're essentially saying, if you're not wealthy enough, if you're a hardworking family and you're not wealthy enough to own 4 acres or greater, you cannot subdivide. Only you throw that family partition golden egg out there, but the simple division will be eliminated. Simple division according to the current zone, unless you have greater than 4 acres, it will be eliminated. Wednesdays, the second Wednesday of the month, is going to be a busy night because all of them, all the divisions will need to be family partitions. You can throw that golden egg out there, but that is essentially the truth. Simple divisions will be eliminated unless you're wealthy enough to have 4 acres or greater. The flood zones or something, let's go over them real quickly. We're already required to be 1 foot above. In the 3 major changes the firms have changed to greater heights. The datums have changed from the 1929 to the 1988, about 7 inches. There's been another additional change in the datum of 1988, another additional 7 inches. Houses are being built on mountains in rural areas, closer to Santa Monica Highway 22 Take a ride out there. That is the great impact. It is not focused enough on floodplain corridors in this document about fill in the floodplain corridors. When you're talking about floodplains of 63% of the parish, let's quickly go over. No rise, no construction negatively impact the base flood. No rise, no adverse impact division, no adverse impact. This is very important. Where development may increase flood elevations on adjacent properties, promising solution may be for the developer to purchase all necessary property rights from all adverse people around, all the property owners. No net fill policy on vacant land. Apply cut fill activities to single family homes. That's the small guys. That's the small people, the hardworking families. If you adopt this, and it does say the parish is developing a floodplain management plan and policy, estimated adoption 2010. They want to put us in a coastal zone. Additional permits and requirements. You want to set up another mitigation bank to mitigate. You are adding so much burden that is already added on to the people in the current 63% of this parish flood zone that you will crush development in these areas. Focus on floodplain corridors. Get out of floodplain. 63%. If you adopted this today, it would crush all of 63% of this parish. Again, I don't have enough time to get into any other topics other than that. I appreciate it. Please review it carefully. Think of the cost that is involved in this document. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Coppelt.
Good evening and thank you. I just have to say, so some of the public and maybe everybody here doesn't understand, we have a master plan now. We had one in 1998, it was adopted, it was revised in 2003. We have a master plan. We're just not following it. At the March 15th meeting, we were told that the plan we were discussing, the one we're discussing tonight, was a view from 35,000 feet. I don't care whether it's 10,000, Mr. Winston, or 35,000. On page 96 and 97 in this 130-page draft, I want to know how you were able to count the toes on a salamander from 35,000 feet. The four-toed salamander is one of 10 species listed threatened and endangered in Ascension Parish. Surprise, surprise, the devil's in the details. This plan did not come from local people. If passed, this plan will require additional permits. Mr. Quintmar just mentioned some of them. Now we're going to have to go to state and federal agencies. If anyone thinks that we have a four-toed salamander on or near our property, we got to go to the state, we got to go to the federal government. This plan is misleading and contradictory. I know what Mr. Winston just said, but I read the document, and a lot of what he said is contradicted. At 11C, it says that existing zoning is not changed by this plan, but that is not what it was in black and white that I read in this document. Conservation is now 1 house per acre. It's going to be called natural. You're going to have 20 acres to build one home. And there are others. I won't go into it. I want to say a little more. This plan will greatly increase the size of government, which always increases inefficiency and cost. Low-income housing will be subsidized by the federal government, brought down from the federal government to the local government. It even says in here, local government must establish a housing authority, staff it, and provide a fee schedule to yearly inspect rental and owner-occupied rental properties to see if they meet the standards set by the parish. Besides an inspection fee, those that are found substandard will pay a prohibitive tax and possibly liens on their property. Affordable rental fees will be determined. Financial assistance will be given to first-time home buyers who are willing to get out of their mobile homes. The list goes on. More taxes and fees are coming. This plan has not come from the residents, but from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The federal government wants to urbanize our parish. Local officials have stars in their eyes, including Mr. Lohr, in the shape of dollar signs. They see the money coming if they pass this, because they were told if they implement the plan, the federal government will give them money. Don't believe it. President Martinez, 16 years ago, has promised $8 million for Highway 42, and we haven't seen a penny of it yet. The federal government wants
About ready to wrap it up? About time.
The federal government wants compact development, people walking to the store, along trails and bayous, sidewalks, bike paths, people exercising outside, fewer road trips, and a reduction in fossil fuels and total energy. This is their smart growth, but it's our parish.
Okay. Catherine, thank you.
Citizens, you need to contact your councilman if you don't want the federal government's plan. It's our parish for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. William Keeley.
Good evening. I grew up in what is now a suburban, urbanized area called Metairie, Kenner. I remember as a child, my grandparents had a house on Williams Boulevard. Williams Boulevard, about 35 years ago, looked like rural Ascension Parish. His house was one of 3 to 4 from Veterans to Pontchartrain. There was horse fields. There was probably 5-10 acre tracts. And now development got awry, and now it's sprawl. And we hear that word a lot right now. But what strikes me about Ascension Parish and what brought me to Ascension Parish, I grew up there. I've lived in Baton Rouge. I've lived in Crowley, Lafayette, went to University of Louisiana Lafayette, met my wife in Sulphur, small town. But when it came to settling down with my family, I have 2 young boys, I chose Ascension Parish. Its schools, its rural character, the fact that I can go to Gonzales, and I can also go out into the river area of the parish. But people, we got to realize that what happened to Metairie, what happened to Kenner, can happen to Ascension Parish. We're right next to Baton Rouge. Does anyone remember what Baton Rouge looked like 25, 30 years ago? I do. There was no Mall of America. There was no water park. It is slowly coming to us. And, maybe not in my lifetime, but certainly in my children's lifetime, this parish, if we do not think about smart growth and, yes, control, we will be another Metairie or Kenner to Baton Rouge. I appreciate everyone's concerns, but right now I'm thinking of the future and my children, and I don't want my children to drive down the road that they grew up on and not be able to discern that location. I took my kids to the house I grew up in Metairie. I couldn't find the house. It's there, but I can't find it. My grandparents' house on Williams Boulevard is not there. None of the houses are there. There's nothing but strip malls, shopping centers, and fast food eateries, and some Chinese restaurants. Is that what we want for Ascension Parish? I think not. I've looked at this plan. I'm in architecture. I work in New Orleans. I commute. Why do I commute? Because I like the character of this parish. I like the schools. I like what it has to offer. It makes me feel safer. My children enjoy it. And I'll continue to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Russian.
Hello. The plan came out this month. It's 130 pages. The last time we had a meeting on this, we had a table, an 8-page table. That was in February. They had this 130-page document a long time ago, but they didn't give it out till a couple of weeks ago. So I think, everybody here is going to have to spend some time reviewing this document, this 130 pages, before they're really going to be able to speak clearly and well on it. And I'm not really even in a position, though I spent this weekend trying to review it, to speak on it. But this plan it's based off of leftist, socialist collectivist principles. It attacks this parish in basically two ways. One, it seeks to urbanize, to force high density on north central part of the parish by using the sewer system as the boundaries. It seeks to urbanize the parish. It sets up designations of 15 houses per acre called centers and 10 houses per acre called villages. And it dots those centers around the parish. It has extreme calls for incentivizing urban centers, special programs, special financing, affordable housing units. Many ways it seeks to promote and finance high-density urban zones in the north central section of the parish. Then on the other hand, outside the urban zone, and this is just like what they do in certain California cities. This plan is obviously lifted from West Coast areas that have extreme control over their development. And it follows a path. What they do in these West Coast cities is they make a certain area and they make it highly dense. They urbanize it. And then the land around that area, they make it prohibitive to be able to develop. That's the exact same principle being followed here. We're urbanizing, we're setting up high-density apartment complexes, and then we're outside of the sewer district, we're making it impossible to develop. And that's not what the people of this parish want at all. The people of the parish need to read this thing. When you listen to Mr. Winston speak, he kind of smooths it over and makes it sound fine. But if you read this document, page after page, it jumps out at you. This is unacceptable, destructive, doesn't meet our principles and our values. You know, I could just sit here and just read under affordable housing. We've got buyers who agree to rent property to families with incomes below 80% of AMI will get special incentives. They want time off during the work week to obtain financial literacy and home buying education training. Purchase of properties at sale below market values. Anyway, bonus for density of new development provides at least 10% of all new homes are affordable. Matching funds to owners for upgrades. Special financing for first-time buyers that are below 120% of median income. Transitioning residents with incomes below 80% of median income. It just goes on and on with incentives to urbanize. It also attacks it calls for identifying what they call substandard housing, which I take as being mobile homes, because they also talk about attacking mobile homes in other parts of the document. And then they talk about prohibitive taxing.
3 minutes are up, okay.
Prohibitive taxes. I mean, the document's 130 pages, and the people of Ascension Parish need to look at it because this will destroy the parish. It is a plan.
Thank you for your comments.
It comes from outside the parish, and it is a plan to destroy this parish.
Ken Glasscock. Okay, thank you. Ellen Russian.
My name is Ellen Russian. I reside in the Galvez area. I'm the mother of 8 children. I run a business out of my home. I work contract work out of Baton Rouge, so I can do commute. I felt the pain of that everyone else has felt on Highway 42 and agree strongly that something needs to be done about our road construction. The master plan, when I came to the last meeting, I have to say, after looking at the pamphlet that was like this, I was ticked about all the mess that was in there. It infuriated me. I have since spent hours in this 130-page document, and I'm not ticked anymore. I am scared of what y'all are trying to do to our parish. It has been stated by several people, and I want to reiterate to make sure that people understand this. You have got to pull this document up. You've got to read it. You've got to familiarize yourself with it. And Planning Commission, I beg you to look at every detail in it. It is sickening. I have spent hours. I tried to formulate a plan of what it would say here, and my stomach was in knots because it clearly has an agenda about what to do with this parish. We are rural. You cannot tell me that you go putting centers. We have the wording of this is demand for urban level of growth can be met via a range of centers. Concentrated urban centers, small town centers envisioned to comprise 50 to 200 acres with density up to 12 units per acre. That does not jive with rule. Just because you want to select a certain part of this parish to destroy reflects the entire parish. You are changing the identity of this parish, and I am opposed to it. And I think a lot of people would be opposed to it if they knew what was going on. And I strongly want to urge the people to look at this document and get involved. Call your councilman, call the Planning Commission. This is being funded partly by the federal government. I'm sorry, I haven't seen anything from them recently that's been helpful to me, my family, or this community. The plan clearly represents an agenda. There is terminologies, villages, hamlets, clusters, duplexes, triplexes. That's what we're going to do with clusters throughout the parish. Single dwelling referred to as negativity. All of a sudden, if you own a home and we're going to put it on a piece of land, that's not what we want to do. Like, that's a bad thing. No, that's a good thing. We talk about housing presently, that we don't have levels to meet the teachers and the firemen. BS. Sorry, I don't believe it. There is a wide range of rentals available in this parish. There's a wide range of housing. Our price of our homes are high because that's what our area is. Talk to the people in the real estate. What we're lacking here is government subsidized. That's what I see. I'm sorry, I don't want anything to do with it. Keep it out of my parish. Okay? I'm passionate about this because this is my community. I'm going to leave what I own to my children one day. This directly affects me, my children, my friends, my family. I agree that we've got some serious problems in our roads. I strongly urge you to take things from this plan to address the roads, and let's solve it. Let's come to some. It's not going to be easy. I understand that. I'm not saying ignore it. We have a serious problem, but this master plan, it has an agenda, and our roads and our wastewater are being tagged on to act like, oh, it all works for the good. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. We definitely need to do something about the wastewater. Address it. We need to do something about the roads. Much is said about the population growth that is to come. Let me remind you that Ascension Parish has grown because of the overall feel of this parish. It is a chosen escape for many people, and a wonderful area to raise your family in.
That's, your 3 minutes are up.
All right. This plan seeks to change our identity forever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Shaney Phelps.
Well, I can honestly say that we in this parish do not all speak with one voice. So when you hear people say we in Ascension Parish, it is not all of us. I live in Prairieville, and I am very thrilled with many of the things I am seeing in this plan. And I, too, have 3 children. And according to many in this people in this parish, I'm a newcomer. I've only been here 10 years. But many of us who've moved here, especially in my part of the parish, we welcome some of this. And I do want to clarify that nobody wants slum apartments. Nobody wants masses and masses and masses of cheap, low-income homes. But I cannot stand here and say that I am against low-income people, and I do not want low-income people in my parish, because there are good, hard-working people who deserve to live here as well. And if we plan this properly, we can create balanced communities where they're mixed in with us. And it is not one pocket of poverty that becomes slums. And this plan addresses this and makes these things possible so that we can create a more balanced future for all of us. And I want to applaud Chris Lohr. He is not in this for any money. Parish councilmen don't get paid much. There's no federal money going to be coming into his pockets. But what we do want in our parish, and what he is voicing for us that have moved in here, we do want to shop in our own parish. We want to eat dinner in our own parish. I don't shop for clothes in this parish. I don't buy my furniture. I don't buy my cars. I don't spend any of my money in this parish except at the grocery store. I want to. I don't want a big urban center, but I would like a nice, small, beautifully built shopping center that has, I would love to have lived in a loft apartment when I was in my 20s. They're high value pieces. This is good, high-end property. Interconnectivity with roads. Firemen can get to homes quicker and easier without having to go out to main roads. Children can ride their bicycles to their friends' subdivisions right behind them. Right now, my kids can't go see their friends that live in the subdivision behind them. They'd have to go out onto Highway 73, and I'm sorry, they would come home like a pancake if they tried that. Urban centers don't have to be as dense as they're saying. They're saying it can be. These pockets, these stars, where they're saying we can have development, these town centers, we're not saying we're going to develop there. We're saying if we do, this might be the best spot for it. And the community can say, hey, we don't want this. The parish isn't going to build it. Developers are. The parish is not going to tell us, you have to have a shopping center on this corner. And I do want people to read this, and I do think this is good for us. And it is a work in progress. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ann. Okay, that's all the people I have signed up to comment. I will recognize any of the councilmen that may want to come up here. We'll allow you the opportunity. Mr. Scheck-Snyder.
Hey, I'm Councilman Ken Scheck-Snyder in District 2. Just a couple things. I do appreciate all the effort that everyone's put forward. I think it's something that we do need some type of plan for the parish, and we need to look forward to when the next 100,000 people get here. We don't know when that's going to be. It might be 50 years from now. It might be 20 years from now. But we need to get an idea about what we're going to do, and I think we're trying to get there. I hope everyone continues to listen to everyone's comments. Some of my comments on the document, I think we need to really make emphasis on single-family residential. That's one of the mainstays of this parish. Also, I think right now we can run into a potential roadblock for a very good development by an example on the airline highway. We've allowed that to be a corridor for multiplex apartments, and I know we've had large ones so far right around where Ralph Sellers are. Very nice apartments that can lead to more and more and more apartments, and then all along Highway 61 can develop a corridor of nothing but apartments, and I don't think that's what the parish really wants to be developed as. So I would like to be very careful on, if we do have apartments here in some shape or form, make sure that they are part of a development, and that the outcome of that those apartments are contingent upon the development being very successful and living with single-family residential people. If not, you're going to lose what we have here for the parish. I do encourage also connectivity of our roads. There's many ways to get better transportation. We're trying to hold off on any taxes at all possible. So instead of building more and more and more roads, larger roads, which have proven very expensive, we can take more of our smaller roads and connect them as much as possible and spread people out. An efficient way of using our money. And that's very important. And also the types of developments, try to incorporate them where within the development they can have whatever services people need, so that they don't have to get out on the road as much as possible. No one thing is going to solve our problems. We've got a long way to go, but in the next 25 years we can get much better. I do also encourage recreational things within, looking forward to when developments come, have some type of recreation, even if it's just land. Because in the next 5 or 10 years, Parish can use that and develop. Same thing with fire stations, police stations, places for ambulances and services. It's got to the point now where the school board has seen that in Prairieville area they just can't afford the land for future schools, and so we might not need them now, but we need to get the land and occupy that land. And the same thing with our roads that we know. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to take a look at our road grid right now and say this road should be connected to here and this road should be connected here. Let's please preserve those corridors. If we have to go out and purchase that land, I don't think we have a right to take land from anybody. I think we should go out and purchase them now before it gets too expensive, and then utilize that, as long as also the bike paths, and I'm very in favor of the levee bike paths and everything, and connectivity for that. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kent. Okay. Comment period is closed for this meeting. Any commissioner have any other questions? And Mr. Winston or Ricky, you want to address some of the other comments? Yeah. Oh. I thought you said, yes, I'm going to address it, but no. Okay. Commissioner, have any further comments? Okay, one thing we do need to, Mr. Duma.
Well, I just want to thank everybody. I mean, everybody's comments are important, and and I think that staff. I know I'm going to think about them and what have you. And I think staff, you and our consultant, Winston Associates, need to sit down and go through them and prepare, proper responses and see how we're going to address them in the comp plan. But I think they need to be given the time to do that. And the purpose of tonight was to further that public participation, and I think we've done that.
Right. And I think what we need to give them direction and see if we want to have another workshop next month and then go to a public hearing. That's, I think, probably the preferred course of action at this time.
Well, one of the things that, as far as another workshop, I think we should have another workshop next month. But I think our workshop should be with the parish council, because they're going to be hearing a lot from people right now also. The people are going to talk to them, and they may tell a councilman something that they wouldn't tell us. So I think we should, if we hold another workshop meeting, it should be with the parish council. At the same time, since we do have a document, maybe we should look at another round of public meetings, but not just hold a public meeting at DPW and say, you come here. There's enough facilities in this parish to where you can go to Dutchtown, to Prairieville, to Sanama, and take this plan to the people. Take it to them, and you probably will get a little more participation. Because I can tell you right now, somebody that lives in Sanama, they don't consider DPW to be part of Sanama. That's part of Gonzales. So why are they going to drive from Sanama or Ace even to see that? And then I've also gotten some feedback from people of, I'm fighting to get home from work, and I have children to take care of. I have to feed them and get them to bed, and then I can't drive over there for a meeting. And I understand that. Everybody has, we all have our lives we're trying to live. Right now, I've had a chance. I read through the document. Can I quote the document? Do I know the No, I don't know the document. I'd like to have more time to sit down and actually study this document and get feedback from people. Anybody's got any comments for me, it's easy enough. I can be contacted through the planning department. Some of you have already talked to me. You've got contact information for me. I want to hear your comments. I've never tried to make myself inaccessible to the public. So I want to get as much input as possible. I don't want to have to try and correct problems on the tail end when we can go ahead and we can iron a lot of this stuff out now. And I think it's gonna save us a lot of problems in the long run. But I do think holding the next meeting we should have would be a workshop meeting with the parish council.
And I guess Ricky can look into that and get back to us on that.
I think that, Ricky, y'all did all this, didn't you? You had meetings in all these different locations, and it's been advertised, and people know they're there. I was at a meeting, when was the last meeting, a month ago? And the last meeting was a month ago?
Yes.
And it's the same people who are at that meeting, they're at this meeting. So I don't know why more people or other people are not coming, but I don't think that having more meetings is the answer.
Well, I think
I
that
don't agree with that, though.
I think that you know, the 138-page document has been in the process for quite some time, and it has only been available to the public for a brief period of time. And I think, out of consideration for that, you know, I think it's important that we continue this deliberation. I think that we continue to have another public meeting, another workshop just like this before we go into the public hearing. I don't think it's unreasonable to, you know, for us to expect that the public, you know, be given additional time. So, you know, I would prefer the staff schedule another workshop just like this, and then a full round of public hearings for this is you know, what I would recommend we do. Give folks time to analyze this, you know, and also for us to time to analyze the comments we received tonight and make whatever modifications or comments to it. Yes, I would recommend that May 17th be another workshop.
Then I'll offer a motion to hold a workshop meeting with the parish council on May 17th.
I don't know that I'm ready for that, to have the parish council, you know, and I don't know that we can do that. So I don't want to make a motion that precludes our ability to have a workshop and do that.
If I don't see any reason why we can't. What would stop the parish? What would stop us from having a meeting with the parish council?
Well, the parish council could come.
It's a workshop meeting.
But I mean, it's a workshop, and some are here, and whoever wants to come can come and state their objections or whatever.
Well, let me throw this in just for what it's worth. This is a fairly massive document, and it takes more than a little bit of effort to try to get your head around it because it's so encompassing and pervasive. I think a couple things need to happen. I think there should be, and I'm not a big proponent of having meeting after meeting after meeting, but having said that, I think that this document should be presented to the public in many ways, shape, fashions, and at different locations to give the public better benefit of interacting directly in a informal situation, being at the polling places or church community halls or what have you, to give people a chance to get copies of this, to ask questions, and better inform themselves. I know that takes time, but I think that's in the public interest. I would certainly welcome an opportunity to have a joint meeting with the parish council, but I would never be so presumptuous to sit here at this board and say, we're going to have a meeting on such and such a date, and our parish councilmen are going to be here. I think that we've brought this up on the table, and I think that we can invite them, and I think they'll be forthcoming. But I certainly don't want to presume upon them and say, we expect you here. I think that's terribly presumptuous of us.
Well, I don't think my motion implied that I expected them here, but I think my motion should include, because I would like us to have a workshop meeting with them So I think that need to be included in my motion. If they can't be here, that's fine. They can't be here, but I think we should be looking at going in that direction with them. We should have right now. This is the time we need to be communicate with them.
A motion, I think, is grossly inappropriate at this time. I think we've extended the invitation, and I just don't think this is something we should vote on. I'll be honest with you about that, as far as dragging the parish council over here.
I'd like to make a substitute motion, if I may. I'd like to move that the commission direct staff to take the comments received tonight, review them, analyze them, make whatever recommendations they feel appropriate, and that they schedule another workshop for May the 17th, and obviously extend all the necessary advertisements and public notices to the public, and also invite the parish council, the sheriff, the fire district folks, and any other parish official that feels necessary that, you know, should participate or come to the hearing.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Julio Dumas, seconded by Commissioner Slyman for another workshop on May the 17th, and extend the invitation to council and public officials. Any opposition? Motion carries. So we'll see you in 1 month. And yes.
And I think that the format of that meeting will be different than this meeting, in that I think that what we should do is carry ourselves from beginning to end through the document so that we can review that wordsmithing that becomes so important as we start to nail down the details, and review each section and what the action items are and what the policy implications are. And I think that type of a session would be a benefit to this process, and I think that it would be a different way to attack it, I guess.
That's a very good assessment. I would agree with that.
So 4 or 5 hours, you think?
It's going to take a while. It's going to take a good bit. And, I'm prepared to sit here and do it, even if we have to continue the meeting for a second day.
This is something that is so important to the parish that we definitely do not want to rush through.
I agree.
Well, and we'll look at that. I think, Ricky, if you'll set up the agenda, maybe we can kind of call that, and I know we'll be having a commission meeting before then, too, so we can kind of discuss some of that time. Okay. Thank everybody once again for coming. We really appreciate it, and I think it's a good push forward.